Now that you've got your machine completely assembled, you've put all your parts together, we've spent lots of time together, it is time to put your machine on your work surface. On top of your work surface is going to be your wasteboard. Wasteboard? Got my wasteboard. Take our design and we're going to come on over to the CNC and we are going to be carving into this MDF. So you're going to want to make sure that you have your dust shoe put on. Got my dust shoe. And now we need to find the 0 on our material. Can I get my touch plate, please? You sure can. That's not a touch plate. It's a touch plate now. Hey there, newbie CNCers! We understand that when you get your CNC, there's going to be lots of new words thrown at you that you have to learn that you may or may not understand because, let's face facts, you gotta start somewhere. We are here today, we are gonna go through some of the more common terms to help you get acclimatized, to help you get used to some of the terms and words we use so you can be the best CNCer you can be. If you don't know about it already, you can check out the link in the description below to the resources page where we have a list of common CNC terms that we've already put together for you. We're going to start with the letter A. It may not go in order. We're just going to highlight kind of the, maybe not the most important ones, but the kind of most common terms. So the first one on our list here is axis or axes, depending on who you are. Typical CNC machines are 3-axis, and those axes get delineated as X, Y, and Z. X being your left to right movement, Y being your front to back movement, and Z being your up and down movement. Axes. A collet is basically a little metal sleeve that fits inside your router or your spindle that grabs onto your cutting bits that you tighten on, making sure that everything stays snug and together and nothing comes loose while you're cutting. Typically coming in 1/4 inch and 1/8 inch sizes. Collet. We'll call it a day. See? Dust shoe. Contrary to what we showed earlier in the video, a dust shoe is actually a super handy tool to have when you are carving your materials. The dust shoe is what basically helps suck up all the dust, sawdust, chips, and that stuff into your dust collector, keeping your work environment, you know, a little fresher for your lungs and a little cleaner for your table. Dust shoe. Limit switches. This is not typically something beginners, newbies need to really worry about. They're generally recommended for more advanced users. However, just so you understand what they are, you will hear about them pretty regularly. They are basically little sensors positioned on your 3 axes to tell your machine when it's getting outside of a safe area to travel. They're basically there to say, hey, you're going to crash or you're going to go outside of what is a safe zone, and we're going to stop you from doing it before you get there. Limit switches. While we have them separated in our handy dandy list, we have router and spindle next. They're not interchangeable because they can do different things, but for all intents and purposes, they are the what drives and spins your bits to cut your projects and your materials. Routers are typically less powerful and more geared towards, I wouldn't even just say newbies, they can go all the way up to advanced users easily. Spindles, however, are typically geared more towards advanced users. There's a lot more to know about them. There's a lot more errors that can happen. And as a newbie, probably not something you'll need to worry about, so you can focus more on the router side of things. Wasteboard. Also, contrary to what we showed earlier, it is not a board that carries waste in your shop. It is, however, a consumable. It is something that you can expect to replace from time to time, depending on how careful you are. It is the board that sits underneath the material that you're carving. So if you are carving through, sometimes you will carve into your wasteboard. It's not a big deal, but it is something to know about. And it is over time if you carve through into it often enough, or if you get glue on it, or if it gets dirty, whatever the case may be, your wasteboard is a consumable. It can get replaced. There are tons of different options out there. MDF is, however, the preferred material for wasteboards because it is very easy to surface and level. It's durable, so it can handle everything that you're throwing at it. It's relatively cheap, it is easily accessible, and it serves its purpose wonderfully as a wasteboard. While not on our list, it is something that is going to come up fairly regularly in newbie speak and jargon, is T-tracks. They are basically just extruded aluminum pieces that you screw into your work surface in between your wasteboard that allows you to clamp your material to your wasteboard. Pretty simple, but super effective. Backlash. As a newbie, sounds like something crazy, and quite honestly, it is kind of an important one, but I'm going to give it a very brief overview. Backlash is basically when you keep the movement of your machine tight. There are backlash nuts that allow you to adjust the amount of loose or tightness on your machine, and these are consumables as well. They can wear out over time, and they are a part of the machine that you need to do a little bit of maintenance on. You have to pay attention to them from time to time. If you notice that your machine can kind of wiggle a little bit, it's time to tighten up your backlash nuts. Homing. Try again. Homing. This is something you will hear about that goes in conjunction with those limit switches I was talking about earlier. It basically is a way for you to tell your machine where a home position, a 000 position will always be, even if you lose a step or if you have a power outage. They are super handy to have, but again, they are not necessarily a beginner newbie thing. They're a little more advanced, but you should know about them. Job, cutting job, I'm not doing that. Jog. I'll say jogging because that's total newbie. Oh my God, are you willing to... Will you please do that while I'm saying it? No? Jog, or jogging, is simply the action of moving your machine around your machine. Jogging.
Jogging. I believe it's jogging or yogging. It might be a soft J. I'm not sure, but apparently you just run for an extended period of time. It's supposed to be wild.
Origin or zero. This is something that can be established by you, the user. You can basically tell your machine where its 0 point is. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to carve from that spot, because depending on what your file setup is, it may need to move around to do that. However, it is basically the starting point so the machine understands where it is in relation to your workpiece. Probe, or somewhat more commonly known as a touch plate, right here. It used to be shiny. This is what you can use to establish where your 000 is on your material that you are using. There are lots of different options for this. You can probe any one of the 3 axes, or you can do all 3 with the AutoZero touch plate. Super handy. Is it needed? No. Is it super convenient and super handy? It absolutely is. Touch plate. Surfacing. This is speaking about flattening out a piece of wood, be it a slab of live edge or something, or your wasteboard itself. It is just the process where you flatten it out and make sure it is all good to go to use. Tramming. You'll probably hear a lot about this. Tramming is simply the router's perpendicularity to the wasteboard itself. For most people's applications, once you've got your machine set up and surfaced, you typically don't have to worry about tramming unless it's really, really horribly obvious. To the naked eye, the way the stock machines are set up, you'll probably be okay with it as is. However, if you are a more advanced user, if your machine is out of tram for some reason, you will need to tram it, and it's just a matter of adjusting your router's perpendicularity. Tramming. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the bits and some of the terms that go with them now. Not all of them, but some of them. Flute. It is simply the groove that is on your cutting bits that allows the material to be ejected. Bits can have 1 all the way up to typically 4 flutes. That's all you need to know about them for now. Upcut and downcut bits. As newbies, these are probably going to be the ones that you use the most, or that maybe you've heard of before. They simply spin in one direction or the other, and they allow a better finished surface on top or bottom depending on what you are cutting. Upcut, downcut. Compression bits are kind of the best of both worlds between upcut and downcut. V-bits, you will also probably get to hear about them pretty soon into your newbie CNC career. They have a V-shaped profile to them. They are fantastic for signs, and the lovely part about a V-bit is that you can get nice sharp corners with them, nice clean cuts. V-bits. On our list, it is called the cutting feed rate, but that is typically known as the feed. It is the speed at which your machine will move around your project. You are the driver of that bus, and you get to dictate what that feed is in your software. Plunge rate. This is simply put, it is how quickly your bit will enter into your material. Plunge rate. Step down, also known as your depth of cut, is how deep the bit will go into your material on each pass. Again, you get to drive that bus and tell from the software that you are using to the CNC how deep you want your bit to go in each pass. There are a ton of other terms on this list that you can know about. Firmware, IoT relay, dip switch, tiling, G-code, CAD, cam, chip load, ramping, step over, roughing pass, pocket cut, compression bits, tapered bits, surfacing bits, toolpath, tool change, ball nose. Obviously, we didn't go through every word on our list here, and there are lots of words that don't even fall on this list. Hopefully though, some of the ones that we did give you helped you to understand them a little bit better, got you a little more comfy in your seat, get you used to being a CNCer. These were some of the terms used for a newbie CNCer. If you haven't watched the CNC Beginner, I don't know what I'm saying because I'm stumbling my way through. Hey there CNCers, Scott here for Sienci Labs. We just went through some of the common terms for CNCing. If you want to know more about actual beginner level CNC stuff, check out the Basics for Beginners series that we have done, and that'll give you a whole broad spectrum of intro stuff to actually setting up your files and getting CNCing underway. See you around the CNC. Nope, didn't like that. See you around the CNC.